on Hanukkah. What I want to do is take a look at a very famous Ramban and a possible response to the Ramban, and it's a new insight, I believe, or it's a fresh perspective from what many people, how they view Hanukkah and the central message of Hanukkah. Okay. Now, maybe fortunately, a lot of people are unaware of the aftermath of the Hanukkah story, like the sequel. There's the prequel, the sequel, right? So the Gemara itself discusses it, and it's not a happy story. And first of all the sons of Matijahu, they were all killed except for one, Shimon. It's sort of a great tragedy in terms of the family itself, a big price to pay. And Shimon's grandson became the king, actually made coins, and declared himself king. And then the family started to behave just like the Goyim, just like the Romans. And every type of murder, they have those words in English: homicide, fratricide, matricide, patricide, right? All different forms of murder. Whatever form of murder you could possibly imagine, that's what happened among the descendants. It's a terrible thing. It's an unbelievable thing. And of course, then the tragic final ending is related in the Gemara. And it's a very terrible story where the Gemara relates, and I just want to focus on a particular detail here, which I think sometimes you learn any pasuk or a Gemara. Sometimes there's a word or a certain nuance of how the Gemara formulates something. A pasuk formulates something that people don't pay attention to, sort of gloss over it, and it can have a big message. So the Gemara relates that there was a certain servant of there was Hordus, Herod, right? And he was a servant in the house of the Hashmonaim. And the Gemara says that there was a daughter of that family, the Hashmonaim, the royal family. He decided that he wanted to marry her. Now here's the point I wanted to make. The Gemara says, Shamahahu Gabra Batkol. That person, Hordus, Herod, he heard a bat call. A voice from heaven, whatever. So that's a supernatural voice. Now, if you hear a bat call, a supernatural voice, ask Julian before you act on it. Okay, because this could be a very dangerous thing. Okay, but generally speaking, when the Gemara says bat call, it doesn't mean a person's schizophrenic and they're having paranoid hallucinations, right? But it actually means a voice from heaven. A voice from heaven. That's what bat kol means. And there's all kinds of questions in halakha even. Can you paskin according to a bat kol? You know, according to what tells you what the halakha is. That's pretty good. Dial 1-800-G-D. Find out what the halakha is. That's what could be better than that. That's better than asking your local Orthodox rabbi. Okay, so he heard a bat kol, and what does bat kol say? Amazing message. The bat kol even spoke in Aramaic. Unbelievable. So the bat kol says, "Kol abd damarin hashta." Any slave who rebels right now, mitzlah, is gonna be successful. So, whoa. This is his chance. It's shata kosher. It's a good time to do it. So what happened? Kam katlinu lekulu marote. He went and he killed all of his men. Killed the whole family off. Okay? Then it goes on to details that I can't discuss today for all kinds of reasons. And remember, he was attracted to this particular woman. This princess here from the family, and she killed herself. Now, here's the point that the Ramban is going to quote, that before she killed herself, she went up on the roof and jumped off. She went to the Golden Gate Bridge, equivalent to that, jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. Kol man da'ati ba'amar midei chashmonai ka'atina avdehu. Anybody who will say that they come from the house of the Chashmonaim, you should know he's just a slave. He's an imposter. Of course, who's she referring to? To whom is she referring to? To Herod, the Hordes. Okay? Because besides the fact that he was sick in the head, and that the Gemara sort of has that angle that he had his eyes on her, but if you look in sort of the way historians describe this, he had a political motive. And that is because he doesn't really come from good kosher Yechesed as a Jew, right? And so therefore, he wanted to establish his legitimacy by marriage. You'll notice, by the way, a lot of Rashi Yeshiva are succeeded by whom? Their son-in-law, not their son. Why? Because you can choose your son-in-law. You can't choose your son. Okay? So who you marry can be a way of establishing legitimacy. And then the Gemara goes on to tell a very tragic story of how he killed all the sages of the time, except for one of them, comedian was a psychotherapist. And it goes on and on and on, and it's not so important for us the details, except the fact that after he killed everybody, so he had for some reason regretted what he did, and this one rabbi that he didn't kill, so he came to that rabbi for an advice, what do I do now? I've done so many terrible things. So the rabbi said, well, you put out the light of the world, so you now should recreate the light of the world. And so that was, according to the Gemara, the incentive for the rebuilding or the upgrading, maybe we should say, the remodeling, remodeling of the Beit HaMikdash until it became that most beautiful building. Anybody who didn't see the beauty of the Beit HaMikdash as rebuilt by Herod never saw beauty in the world. So this is the tragic aftermath of the Beit Hashmonaim, the family that led the rebellion against the Syrian Greeks, and it boils down to disintegrates into Herod. That's the great story. We don't have a holiday to mark that. Okay, I like to stop with the good news. Okay, so what I'm going to do is share with you a Ramban, okay, famous Ramban, and then we're going to take a look at a piece from Rav Kook. Everybody ready? So to appreciate this Ramban, we have to begin with a passage in the Torah about in a few weeks, and a little more than a few weeks. That it's at the end of the book of Reshit when Yaakov is giving job assignments, say it that way, to his children. Lo yasor shevet mihuda, the Torah says, that the scepter of rule shall never depart from Yehuda. Umechokek mibein raglav, and a lot of people are translating this. Here, they're translating student of the law. Ad ki yavo Shiloh, till Mashiach comes, v'lo yikatam, and to him will be the gathering of the people. Okay. Now the sages understand this pasuk when it says Lo yasor shevet mihuda, that is a reference to rule. Shevet. Shevet is the king has a scepter, and that this scepter, the symbol of rule, will never depart from the tribe of Yehuda. Yehuda is the tribe which creates kings. Okay, this could be, by the way, since it's very much what's going on now in the parsha, in terms of the tension between Yosef and his brothers, because Yosef seems to be illegitimately making a claim to rule, and so the other brothers, focusing on Yehuda, right? What's going on here? That's a usurpation of the rightful role of Yehuda. So that already could be, in some ways, what's going on behind that tension. Okay. Yeah, but of course, Nebuah, and they do what's going on. Okay. So Rashi wants to explain. So what does this pasuk mean? Let's take a look. Rashi lo yasor shevet Yehuda miDavid ve'elach. This pasuk which says that rule shall never depart from Yehuda, that begins this not only prophecy, but job assignment, whatever, however you want to describe it, begins from King David on. course, King David was from the tribe of Yehuda. So from the Davidic monarchy on, the scepter stays in Yehuda. Now, I just want to appreciate this. What is forcing Rashi to say David ve'elach from King David on? Anybody want to explain that? Got some Torah scholars down here. Very good. We have a problem because we had the first king, Shaul. So Shaul is from the tribe of Benjamin. So that's why Rashi had to say, okay, this begins from the next generation. Okay. By the way, yeah.
If Shaul wants sin, then it will stay with his family.
Yeah. Okay, it's an excellent question. So I want to make sure everybody understands that Shaul being promised, or apparently that certainly was taken away from his original sin. He would never have sinned. He would have been, his kingship would have lasted, I guess, among his heirs as well. So what happened to this? So the only way to explain it is a paradox. And maybe there are famous explanations, that other explanations I'm not aware of. This is what the Ramban explains. The Ramban says, we're not going to say it over the idea. The Ramban says that there are certain HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the only way I can say this is HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a sense of humor. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a sense of humor. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sometimes does things that people trip up, but it was meant to be. Even though they had free will, there's a certain paradox there. They had free will, but Hashem's providence, this hashgacha, it was meant to be that way. There are many examples. As a matter of fact, even when Adam ate from the fruits, not supposed to eat from it, it probably was supposed to happen, right? Because just for reasons I'm getting into right now, and many other examples of very strange things in terms of. Let's go back to our story here, Yehuda and Tamar. That the Malchut of David comes from very, not very nice roots on both sides. Ruth, Amoviyah, she comes from an incestuous relationship, and Yehuda Tamar, that's sort of a quasi-incestuous relationship. So, but it's hashgacha. So people made these choices, but it was meant to be for certain reasons. So the same thing here, the Ramban explains that even though the Torah itself says that when we come to Eretz Israel, that that there's a mitzvah to appoint a king. It's one of the 3 mitzvahs you have to do to enter Eretz Israel. So, however, the motive has to be correct. And when the people came to the prophet Shmuel and said they want a king, Shmuel was very upset by this. It's not because people read that, they think that Shmuel's ego is offended. Chalila, God forbid, Shmuel. His ego was offended. No, it's because the people were saying, we want to be like all the Goyim. That's why we want a king. That's not the function of the king. If that's your motive for a king, then it's a terrible thing. It has to be king to unite the people and to do the things that a king has to do, but not to be like the rest of the nations. So therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to use an English phrase, there's the Hebrew equivalent, he gives us the rope to hang ourselves. That's the way it works. That's free will. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Shmuel, they want a king, give him a king. They want a king, give him a king. But that kingship, that malchut, because it's coming from the wrong motive, it's like, I'm going to use another non-Jewish phrase, you'll forgive me. It was born in sin. The malchut of Shaul was born in sin. That's why divine providence had it. It couldn't be from the seed of Yehuda, because divine providence was that it would not be able to sustain itself because it was born improperly. It came from the proper motives. So therefore it came from a different tribe altogether, from Benjamin, because it was going to be short-lived. Now, true, Shaul sinned, but that was all going to happen. That was the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu arranges things. Everybody got that? Okay, so that's the long answer to 2 words, David ve'elach. Okay, why it says from King David on. Okay, now the problem is Rashi has a big problem because there are many periods in Jewish history where there was no king. So how could it be that from the time of King David on, so there's always going to be a king from the tribe of Yehuda? So Rashi's a little stuck. So he says, Elu Rashi Gal Yoshim Ravel. You know what? There's a melech and there's a melech. You don't have to have a title on you. You don't have to wear a t-shirt. I'm the king, right? You can still be a melech. A melech means you have political power over the Jewish people. You're the leader of the Jewish people. So therefore, when the Jewish people went into Babel, no king anymore in Eretz Israel, there's no government in Eretz Israel anymore, Jewish government in Eretz Israel, but a descendant of the family of David HaMelech was called the Reish Galuta, and he was like the leader of the Jewish people in Babel, and he had political power. Shrodin Ta'am, Bashevet, that they had political power, they could, as it were, beat up the Jewish people if they misbehave. And he was given that political power. The Jews had, like in ancient times, it wasn't like had a centralized government that everybody was subservient to a central government. That you had minority groups that had a certain amount of autonomy. It was actually good for the central leadership. So in Babel, they gave the Jewish people a certain amount of autonomy, and they were under the leadership of the Reish Galut of the Jew, came from the tribe of Yehuda. Okay. Shemunim al pi hamalchut, that they had their position given to them by the rulers of Babel. So there really always has been a ruler, and there always will be, according to Rashi, from this particular tribe of Yehuda. I don't know if Netanyahu is from the tribe of Yehuda. Mistama he is. Okay, because a lot of Jews are. Okay, you can never have maybe make sure I cannot become. That's why they've asked me to become the head of the state of Israel. I refuse. I'm not going to do so. That's a very good question. I don't know. Okay, so that's Rashi. So the Ramban disagrees. Because you appreciate that Rashi's problem, even though we understand that he's answering a very good question, right? How do you have this malchut which continues from the time of David, even when you don't have a king anymore, you don't have a government anymore in Eretz Yisrael? So he gave an answer, but it's not a very easy answer, because what about nowadays? Or let's say, how about before the state of Israel? There's whole questions that poskim asked. Does the state of Israel have any kind of status of a malchut? So that's a thing that's discussed. But before the state of Israel, make it easier. Who's the in Babel, you had a Reish Galuta. Who's it in Poland in the 17th century? Good question. Okay, so the Ramban says it's because that's not shot in the pasuk. That's not what it means. Let's read the Ramban. It doesn't mean that the Malchut will survive forever. That's what Rashi said. Rashi said there'll always be a kingship coming from David. The Ramban says this is not true. That's not what the Torah means. Wow. And the Ramban says, I'll prove it to you. It says in the Torah, so the Torah itself says, you know what? You're going to misbehave. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to take you and your king that you'll establish over, and you're going to go into a nation that you never knew before, you and your forefathers. The Torah itself says that the end of Jewish rule will come as a punishment for our sins. The Torah itself says there'll be periods of no Jewish rule. So there'll be no melech anymore, no king. We're going to go into exile, no kingship. Ein lehem od melech v'sarim, no king. You know, there's a story I once heard. I think it's a true story. There was a reporter for the New York Times. This is the beginning, maybe, 1910 or 1920, whatever it is. He was in the Lower East Side. There were a lot of Jews living in the Lower East Side in Manhattan. And you see someone had a sign on a door there, and it said, Chief Rabbi of the United States. There's no such thing, by the way. So the reporter asked him, who appointed you Chief Rabbi of the United States? So he said with a heavy Yiddish accent, I can't do it. He said, the sign maker. So if a person says, I'm a melech, they're sitting in Babel, right? And they call themselves a melech, that's not a melech, right? A melech means in Eretz Yisrael. Okay. So we're kind of stuck here. So now we understand why the Ramban doesn't like Rashi. He goes on. V'yamim rabim ein melech b'Yisrael. There's a lot of years no melech. V'hanavi lo yavtiach et zo shelo yelchu b'shevi b'shum minyan b'avor shimloch aleim Yehuda. The prophet, who's the prophet here? Yaakov. Yaakov never made a promise to the Jewish people that they'll never go into exile in order that Yehuda shouldn't have unemployment, not what it means. Usually when the Ramban asks a good question on Rashi, you kind of take your breath and you say, wow, wait, okay, Ramban. And when the Ramban speaks up, he's usually very good. So now we got a problem. How about Inyan no shelo yasur shevet Yehuda elechad me'achav? What does the pasuk mean? It doesn't mean that there'll always be a king for Yehuda. It means that the rule of Yehuda, the scepter of Yehuda, will never pass to any of his brothers. Ki malchut Yisrael hamoshel aleichem mimenu yeh. That the government of Israel, which rules over the Jewish people, will always come from Yehuda. V'lo yimshol echad me'achav alav. There'll be never any of the brothers who have political control over the Jewish people. That any ruler who can make laws among the Jewish people, and he has the Tabat HaMelech, it's always going to come from Yehuda. Ad ki yavo Shiloh, until Mashiach comes. V'zeu Mashiach ki hashevet b'mot David, shu HaMelech HaRishon asher lo shevet malchut. The Shiloh hu b'no asher lo yigatam. Okay. So he says the following. You know what the pasuk means? It means as long as there is a king, that's the difference. As long as there's a king, that king is going to come from the Yehuda. That's what we call the Ramban. Right. Rashi said there'll always be a king, and there'll be a king from Yehuda. Ramban says no. That whenever there's a king, that king must be from Yehuda. Everybody got that? That's how you explain that. Okay, so far so good. Only one problem. Now here's where we get the Hanukkah. That's a sad story. This is the punishment of the Hashmonaim that ruled during the time of the Second Temple. Now, don't forget, the Hashmonaim were from what tribe? They were from the tribe of Levi. Go on. Levi has a very distinguished role in the Jewish people, but not king. Now, don't misunderstand this. You see, sometimes secular historians will take this idea and they take it way too far. Because if somehow the original family Hashmonaim, something wrong with them. Ki hayu chasidei elyon. The Hashmonaim were unbelievable tzaddikim. Ve'il malehem nishtachu Torah v'amitzvot miYisrael. For not for the Hashmonaim, there would have been forgotten the Torah and mitzvot from the Jewish people. The fact that we exist today is because of the Hashmonaim and their merit. But even though that's true, they suffered terrible punishment. I'll point out. You see, and this is a theme we see a lot. The bigger you are, the harder you fall. You know, HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges the tzaddikim kechuta sa'ara, like a thread. One little deviation, you're a big tzaddik, you got a big responsibility. Moshe Rabbeinu, the big tzaddik could be Moshe Rabbeinu. He hit them up there talking to him. Whole career over. Doesn't get to go to Israel. Any of us can get away with it. I don't know about any of us. I can get away with it. Give my kid a pot instead of talking. I've done it. But he was not wise. No, that other football player beat his kid. I don't beat his kid, but I did beat him. Okay, now, so they were big tzaddikim, but they made a mistake. That mistake brought upon them a terrible punishment. Kivar b'nei Hashmonaim zakein hasidim olchim zeh achar zeh im kol gvuratam v'asachatam nafu biyad oiveihem b'cherev. The four sons, right? We mentioned this in our introduction of Yehuda Maccabi at 5. 4 of the 5, they fell in battle. V'higia ha'onesh b'sof l'ma shamru razal koman da'amar mi beit Hashmonai ka'atina avdahu. And it became so terrible, this punishment, that it devolved into the Gemara that I said in the beginning, that if anybody says, oh, I'm a descendant of that, I got yichus all the way back to them, he's a big faker. He's a slave. Herod. Shenichratu kulam ba'avon hazeh. That family was wiped out completely, not a remnant, because of this sin. What sin? That they ruled the Jewish people. They took kingship. They're not allowed because they are not from the tribe of Yehuda. They're from the tribe of Levi. Now, just as a side point, the Gemara says that Shimon, right, he's the surviving son. So that the sins became involved in the Tzdukim, who denied the authenticity of the Torah Sheba'al, and that is part of what the punishment was about for that sin. That's a different sin. Okay, Kadosh Baruch Hu adds up sins altogether, like the Chet of the Meraglim that stays with us. There's always a little bit of that in the Eglah Zahav. A little bit of sin. Every time we're punished for something else, we get a little bit of that. Abel Kolzera Matitya Hashmonai Tzadik Lo Avru Elaba Morzeh Shamaltu Lo Ayu Mizer Yehuda U'Yitav. So this all the progeny of Atikahu, the great Tzaddik. So the punishment they got is that they ruled and they didn't come from the lineage of Yehuda. They see Shevet from the Chokek Lagamre. They caused the scepter of rule to deviate from the tribe, to go out of the tribe. Says the Baal. When Kodesh Baruch Hu punishes us, he punishes way which mirrors the crime. So if you're ever having something bad happens, you want to know what you did to deserve it, because it's hard to know why. There's all kinds of reasons. But sometimes what's happening is paralleling the problem. So look for that. So that's what the Ramban says here. Why? Because what did they do? They illegally usurped the rule that should have belonged to. They stole the rulership from the tribe of Yehuda. So what's Kadosh Baruch Hu's punishment? He made somebody who illegally stole the rule from them. Someone who has no yichus whatsoever. That, can you believe, what bigger shame could there be than a slave from the household usurps rulership and wipes you out completely? So that, the Ramban explains, was midah keneged midah, that they illegally stole from the tribe of Yehuda rule, so they had therefore, as a punishment, their leadership, which was stolen from them by this evidence. Everybody got that? Now the Ramban has that there could be something else going on here in addition. And this is a big, big issue here. There could be another sin as well when they rule. There's a double sin. The first sin is, like we said before, that only from the tribe. The second sin. What's that sin? It's based upon a pasuk. The pasuk says, "V'nitztabu tishku et kunachem." So when the Torah describes what is the rule or the job assignment of the Kohanim, it's very specific. The job of the Kohanim is to work in the Beit HaMikdash. So the Gemara derives from this that that's the job. You stay in your job. Your job is not to be involved in political rule. Their job is to do avodat Hashem. And by the way, there's many things we could talk about here. Many things. You know how people sometimes get upset that, when rabbis talk about politics. We're going to talk about this a little bit on Shabbat. And they sort of you experience this in Israel because here, rabbi talks about politics. What's the difference? What he says doesn't matter anyway. Like in Israel, there's political parties. There's political parties. They have the members of Knesset are rabbis, Shas party, all rabbis. So people who don't like rabbis too much anyway, but they want to be a little bit respectful, so say, you rabbis stick to religion. We'll handle the power thing. You stick to religion. So there's a little bit of evidence for that attitude from this Ramban based on the Gemara. But in that, we're not going to develop that, but the Ramban adds that that could be another part of the sin. That besides the fact that they illegally rule, but there's another issue, and that is a Kohen should not be a political leader. A Kohen stick to religion. Okay, so far so good. Any questions or comments on anything you said so far? Okay, now I want to take a look at a piece of Rav. This is a very powerful piece here. Okay, and the Ramban here, Rav Kook does not mention the Ramban. Now, you should know that this issue here, it's the last bit, this issue here, no translation. This issue here of how you interpret the Pasuk and the Ramban and his criticism of the Hashmonaim, it's a big, big issue. And there are hundreds of pages been written about it by other Rishonim. They don't like it the way he said about the Hashmonaim, even though he said Hasidei Yoron, they were the most pious, and etc. He wasn't disrespectful, but there's a lot written on this. But in the 20th century, I don't know what date Cook wrote this. It could have been already in the 19th century, 1865. But when I read this piece from Rav Kook, I thought of the Ramban. In a way, I think it could be a response to Ramban. Who doesn't mention Ramban? Now, we're going to now see a very different way of understanding Hanukkah. But he said Greek outlook. It said there are two separate paths in life, two separate paths. Now, before we read on, I just want to make a little introduction to frame the problem. One of the famous issues that's discussed, you see this written many, many times. This idea. I'm going to give you an illustration. What's the main celebration? What's the mitzvah of Hanukkah? It's not to eat latkes. It's not to eat donuts either. What's that? Okay, good. Publicize the miracle. In terms of and we say Hallel, etc. But and of course the main thing is to light the candles, and that's actually publicize the miracle, light the candles. So there are two post-Torah holidays. Hanukkah. What's the other post-holiday? Post-Torah holiday. And they have a certain thing. People make jokes about it. Like, that's all Jewish holidays. It's like, they tried to beat us, we won, let's eat. Right? It's not really true. Okay? You take a look at both of those two holidays, which are both post-Torah, and it's superficially, there's a common theme. There's a big bad guy, right? There's Haman, or you have Antiochus. And a miracle happened, oh Hashem, and everything turned out all right. And now we're going to observe, we're going to mark that miracle. So a lot of them, unfortunately, point out, look at the difference in how we celebrate. So Purim, what do we do to celebrate? We drink and a big party, okay? And what do we do on Hanukkah? Don't think of latkes and tzutani. That's the whole thing, light a candle. Good boy, not going to give much weight to that. Okay? So a lot of them point out there's a reason for that. It's because what was the threat of the Jewish against the Jewish people in Purim? Haman didn't care about your philosophy. He was like Hitler, Yimach Shemo. You could be a biggest reformed Jew, you could be any kind, it didn't matter. The threat was against our existence, our physical existence. So therefore, how do we celebrate it? Since the threat against the holiday of Purim was against our physical existence, we celebrate it by celebrating physical existence. How do you celebrate physical existence? You go to the gym, you eat, you drink, right? You're alive, physically alive. Hanukkah, what was the threat? You see, it was our soul, because Antiochus, there are a lot of Jews who liked Antiochus. Gotta look at the time. Oh, I don't want to get thinking bad about the Jews. Right? Everything in moderation. Very good. So the threat was against our neshama, against what it means to see the truth about what the world is about, and so therefore we light a light, right? Something spiritual. Light is spiritual. And we just saw, we just looking, right? I showed this menorah. It's like the first menorah. That's a Hanukkah menorah. Okay, so and Mordechai over here, he's got good eyes. He could see that there's this for the 12th century. There's inscribed in this menorah. I want to tell what it says there. So therefore, the threat was against the Torah, right? Therefore, we have them there, right? Again, thank you. So so what that does, it sets up as kind of a dichotomy. That what did the Syrian Greeks represent? They were brutal beasts, brutal beasts. And what do we stand for? Light, right? The light of Torah. Okay, especially when we think of Greek culture. Someone here mentioned he says something cynical about gyms. So be careful around here. We got a lot of gym people here. I wish I was. Okay, so and people like associate that with kind of like that's a Greek thing to do. I don't know, maybe on Hanukkah you shouldn't go to the gym. That's not true, right? But you could think that I could think someone say that, and unfortunately, there's a kind of this idea that I never heard anybody say. Someone's walking down the street, a non-Jew, and there's a bunch of Orthodox Jews walking towards them. Oh, this is scary. Let's go to the other side of the street. They don't exactly look too terrified. Very good. Yeah, true. That just shows you. Yeah, that just shows you how far it went. Yeah. So in any case, this sort of dichotomy that the message of Hanukkah is the power of spirit over the supremacy of the body. That's the way. That's the normal way. So Rav Kook is going to turn the whole thing upside down. Okay, everybody ready? So he says Greek culture is not what you think it is. The truth of the matter is anybody who knows anything about, study anything about Greek culture. As a matter of fact, you learn the Rambam, you learn a little about Greek culture. You have to have a lot of respect for Aristotle. Aristotle was not exactly a person who thought that, sat around in a gym all day long and eating donuts all day long. And orgies. That was not Aristotle. As a matter of fact, he hated the body. Aristotle thought the body is disgusting. So he goes on. One path in Greek society was completely involved in natural physical things, to stress and develop physicality. That's why they made sport into a big idolatry, a big avodah zarah sport. Okay, the pulchan tarbut aguf, an idolatry of the culture of the body. That's Greek. But there was another within Greek society. Olalechet neged hateva, to go exactly the opposite. That's Aristotle. Lihit maser leprishut gemura, to separate oneself completely from physicality, mikol kohot hativim, from all natural forces, mikil chai ruach, and to be just spiritual, intellectual philosopher. Aristotle had this idea of the idea of a cave. You go live in a cave. Okay. Lochem Israel. This is not the way of the Jewish people. Aleichem ne'emar v'atem tihyu mamlechet kohanim. The Torah says our job assignment. What's our job assignment? Is to be a mamlechet kohanim, a kingdom of priests. The Rav Kook is medayek. It's something don't even think about it. What's mamlechet kohanim? It doesn't mean that people sit around. They'll all be kohanim. No works for them. That's not what it means. Malchut, second, v'han hagam. It means malchut means you're all involved in the physical world. The king has to have a Torah by his side at all times, but a king spends most of his time doing stuff in the world. The Kuhunahu second, the Kohanim are involved in the life of the spirit. Mu'chado, u'malukado. Both of those things united, synthesized into one thing. That's what Mamlechet Kohanim. Mamlechet is physicality. Kohanim is the idea of the spirit united into one thing. And then the Torah goes on. Mamlechet Kohanim, the Goy, Kadosh. So, a holy nation. What's a Goy? Lo rak bodudi magim l'dargat kedusha doesn't mean. See, in other religions, you'll be a saint. As an individual, I'm going to go be a saint. I'm going to go become a nun, a hermit. Right? I always thought about being a nun myself. Be a nun. Okay. So there's no such thing in Yiddishkeit. Ella Hagoy Kulo means a nation as a nation in its collectiveness, made up a word, which is involved in work, life. Ahu Kadosh Yeamerlo. But that goy will have the term Kadosh. A goy, but Kadosh. A nation, but holy. Yeah. And now you're already seeing where this is going, I think. So don't say anymore, or else I'll be out of a job. Then he goes on. This is the spirit of the Jewish people. Bali de bitui b'menorah Torah. You see this in the menorah. There's a beautiful, beautiful insight. Shemitzad echad hu'alu neroteh b'derech TV b'shemen zaydu b'lahat lakam ma'aseh adam. You know how the menorah got lit? It got lit a big privilege given to the Kohanim to light the menorah. You know how it was done? With oil, with fire, with your hand, right? Natural. Umitzad sheni dalak bohaner maravi shayakulo gilui shones. The Gemara explains that there was one candle called the Ner Maravi, and that candle was lit supernaturally. Hakoch hativi v'hakoch hanisi hishtalvu yachad. That you see in the menorah itself, that part of the menorah was lit supernaturally, and part of the menorah was lit naturally. And you know what the Torah says about how the menorah is supposed to be made? Miksha. That is unbelievable. You know? It's unbelievable. Torah says you're not allowed to, when they made the menorah, you can't take a bunch of pieces of gold or solder them together. No. Because the Miksha had to be made out of one solid piece. Why? Because the Ner Maravi, which was a miraculous candle, and the other candles which were lit naturally, it's Miksha. It has to be one thing integrated together. That's the idea of Mamlechet, Kohanim, Goy, Kadosh. The menorah itself represents that integration. And then he ends, Edu Shashchina Shorabi Yisrael, that the Gemara itself says that Ner Maravi testifies the fact that we're a nation, we're made of physical, we got flesh, we have a government, we have an army, we all those things, but there's the Shechina with us. It's all one. Shechina Mala Shuya al Darimata. That the Shechina, which comes from the higher spiritual world, it dwells down here with us, down here. Now he goes on to the punchline. So the Yevanim couldn't understand this. They understood, oh, there's this nut named Aristotle. He's a Meshugana. He's a philosopher. He goes, he lives in a cave, he thinks all day long. Matter of fact, the Greeks often killed philosophers. Remember some of the stories, Socrates, etc. Killed. He was killed by Socrates, right? Plato was killed. One of those guys got Frank Hemlock. Socrates, right? Socrates. Okay. So very good. They couldn't imagine such a thing. So there's a guy, Plato, okay, there's Aristotle, Socrates, whatever. That they understood. Or they understood, hey, I'm gonna be in the Olympics, I'm a great Olympic champion. That I understand. They couldn't understand the path of the Torah, that unites those things in a full unity. That worldview that sees the body as a basis for the spirit. An approach that knows how to develop holiness even in real natural life. They couldn't take it what Jews did. This is like, from their point of view, it's like milchiks and inflations. You know, you're either this or you're that. Both together, it can't be. And now he makes another deal. This is a beautiful thing. You know, when the Gemara, which we learned the first time we met 2 weeks ago, says that when the Greeks entered, it says they defile the oils. So when I read this, the good point I made before, sometimes you gloss over things, you read it fast, you don't realize that there's very precise wording here. See, well, it should have says nitma'u kol shmanim. Well, you all got defiled because they made a big balagan, they're big a rampage in there, everything got defiled. No, timu, that Hebrew word timu doesn't mean the oils were defiled. It means They targeted Chimu. They targeted the oil. Why? Because they understood what the menorah was. They understood the menorah represented the synthesis, the integration of physicality and spirituality. So they're going to get that menorah. And it's very interesting. Later on in history, the Romans, who just continue the message of the Greeks. What's the big symbol in the Arch of Titus in Rome? Carrying the menorah. The menorah is right there. That represents what we're all about, which is that integration. Hein nilchamu neged oram, show Yisrael. They fought against the light, that special light. Neged menorah hamufla, against the menorah, this wondrous menorah hamaachedet at the teva v'neis kam yachad, which unites and synthesizes this world and kedusha together. So you know what happened? If that was the threat, so who rose up against them? The Kohanim. In Mishpachat HaKuna of Israel. They are the ones who rallied to fight this holy war against the Greeks. They restored Jewish rule. They symbolized in their own bodies what the war was all about. They fought with this power of the body. Who led the revolt? The Kohanim. They were acting as the generals. They were Arik Sharon. They were the generals. But they're also Kohanim at the same time. In all of their holiness and purity. So it says that since the whole threat in Hanukkah was the rejection that there could be holiness and physicality integrated, so if that's the illness, what's the remedy? A Kohen who's also a Melech. And what is that? Mamlechet Kohanim. It represents that synthesis. So that's why it's kind of like a horacha, that it's maybe it was supposed to last forever that way, but in terms of that particular historical context, it had to be adopted from the Kohanim, who would fight against the Greeks and establish some kind of at least temporary rule in order to broadcast that message that a Kohen can also carry immunity. Okay. So this edition of Rav Kook's teaching has a little footnote here. That's not from Rav Kook. It's actually from his Talmidim, the Nazir. We'll just finish with that. The Nazir Elokim, by the way, you see how this is so different from the normal way of looking at it. Like, Hanukkah is the spirit. The Greeks are the physical. No, much more nuanced than that. The Nazir Elokim, Rav David Cohen, Katav de Choveret Orek Anuz, Yerushalayim, blah, blah, blah. He says that this was a student of Rav Kook. So the current chief rabbi of Haifa, Rav Yashu. So he's the son of the Nazir, son of the Nazir. Yesod Chanuka Dec. What's Chanukah all about? He ha'italut shalachol el hakodesh. Did you get the deal? Rather that, not al hakodesh.
Oh,
El, exactly. Not using. It's not hitalut shalachol al hakodesh, but el hakodesh. Right. It's to integrate the two. It's because people have the idea of the elevation of whole over the whole. Right. It's to integrate them together. Lo rak shmei Eretz Yisrael kadoshim heim. People shouldn't think that the heavens of Eretz Yisrael are holy. In kol haaretz, even the earth is holy. Even the earth is holy. Kodeshi. Hareha v'amakeha admata v'avira. Its mountains, its valleys, its soil, its air, everything is holy, because that's the message of Chanukkah, is that we can bring down a very powerful into this world, the integration of the physical and the spiritual. Have a good day. Yes, indeed. Yeah, that was.